So I got asked if I could maybe make a tutorial or a basic tutorial of how to getting started using Mixins, because, well, everyone who tried it knows that it can be a bit difficult at the beginning. So I hope you like it, I hope it helps you a bit, and yeah, have fun. So doing Mixins for 1.16 or 1.15 and 16 actually is pretty easy. It's a bit more difficult for 1.12, but Mixin got added to some 1.15 build. At that point it got really easy. You just need to actually enable Mixin in the build.gradle file in your workspace. To do that, you just add this line to the repositories, the sponge-powered repository, this class path to the dependencies, the Mixin Cradle thing, add this to the plugins, this one's not really needed for Mixin, but you should add it because that way it gets encoded with UTF-8, so you can use more characters like the German so-called Umlaute, some special characters and stuff. I still use the old Forge snapshot mappings because I don't really like the official Mojang mappings. If you are using or already using the new official mappings, some of the method and field names will be different, but yeah, that's on you. I deleted all versions or all run configurations from the runs section. I just kept the client setting or the client run configuration and added this arc. It's to load the Mixin config or your Mixin config into your workspace or IDE. This needs to be the same name as your Mixin config. Yeah, I just explained it now. You need to add one file to your resources called or ending with .mixin.json. Here you should just use your mod's mod ID. And yeah, we add stuff to this later. Just create it at this point and add it here as arc, like that. Yeah, and the last thing is, oh no, it's actually two things. I forgot to add this. Let's do this later. You add these 3 lines to your jar section or manifest, to be more specific. This one is your tweak class. This is always the same, I think. So just copy this line, just copy this line, and this again is your Mixin config. So change this to your name of your Mixin config. It's for after the compiling. It gets added to the manifest. Yeah, pretty self-explaining. Nothing to worry about. So yeah, let's do the Mixin config at let's do this later. Let's create a new package first. Let's do the Mixin, the actor Mixin first, and the other stuff later, because you need your Mixin class to do this. So after creating a new package for your Mixin classes, I just wanted to say it's not really important to do this, but it is. It actually is. Create a new package for all your Mixin classes, or at least for one category of your Mixin classes. If you want to separate them to be ordered, you can do this, but you need to add special stuff to your Mixin config. So try to try to do this all in one package, and let's create a first or a test Mixin class here. I try to explain how Mixins work via the widgets class. I add some Mixins to the button rendering. So yeah. So really quick to explain why I named it like that. It's just that you should use a separate class for every, or a separated Mixin class for every normal class you want to add Mixins to. And you should name it like Mixin and then the normal class name. We want to add Mixins to the widget class, so we named it Mixin widget. Now we add an annotator called Mixin and gave it the class we want to add Mixins to. It's the widget class. This annotation needs to be part of every Mixin class, so Mixin knows that it's a Mixin class. Yeah, that's basically everything you need to do at this point. Okay, now that we created our Mixin class, we can switch back to our Mixin config and prepare it to be able to load our Mixin classes in this package. So, oops, you should just copy these. I think I will just upload this workspace to GitHub so you can copy these. This is if your Mixin or this Mixin config is required, or if it fails to inject something, it just silently fails if it's not required. If it's required, it will crash and tell you that something went wrong. Most of your Mixins will be required, but yeah, some of them aren't, and yeah, just do this like you think it's best for your Mixin. This package, as I said, just needs to be the package to this Mixin package, like the one you put all your Mixin classes in. This is the compatibility level. Sorry. It's always Java 8, or it should be always Java 8 in 1.16 and before, but it will be Java 16 in 1.17. In the client section, you will add all your Mixin classes from here, all your Mixin classes names. That's the client section is for all your Mixin classes that will be loaded on the client side, not on the server side. There's a similar section for server, and I think another one for, I think it's called both, but I'm not sure. Server is obviously only loaded on the server side, and both, or whatever it's called, will be loaded on both client and server side. The injectors, you don't need to know about these, just copy this section. The last section is your refmap. You need this for Mixin, so Mixin is, or will be able to rename all the deobfuscated file names and method names for its users. You don't need to create, or actually create, this file before compiling, but you should remember the name you gave it here. Actually, you should just use the same name as for your Mixin config, but just add this to the end and before .json. Yeah, now you add one more thing, the one thing I forgot to add to your build.gradle. Damn it. It's just that your automatically generated refmap file gets renamed to the one you actually want to name it. So that's your name, that's the real name of your refmap, like you defined here. And yeah, that should be everything you need to prepare to be able to use Mixins. Now let's do the actual Mixin part. So if we want to inject something in the render widgets method, we go to our Mixin class, Mixin widget class, and in this case there are more than just the inject annotation, but we are using the inject annotation now. We want to inject something into the method, so yeah, you know, we define at what point the code followed by this will be injected later. Is it even? Yeah, now it is. So the value, or more specifically the injection point, is what method is used to inject the following code into the original method. So here we just use the head injection point, the head injection point. That means it gets injected at the head of the original method, but there are others. Yeah. Here we can add more stuff like the target. That's still in the add section, in the add annotation. Target is for using, or when using others, other injection points than head. So if you use, for example, invoke, that's where you are defining at what method invoke you want to inject your things, but that's a bit more, yeah, you know, a bit more advanced. So I will just focus on some basic stuff here to give you a basic experience how this all works, and will link you to stuff that will explain it better. So in this very simplified case of injecting a Mixin into a method, we are out of the add annotation now, and we just need to define one more thing here, and that's the actual method name where we want to inject our Mixin into. In that case, that's render widget. Widget. If I'm not wrong, let's check this. Yeah, it's render widget. So this should be the only class named render widget in this, the only method named render widget in this class. So we can just say render widget is the method we want to inject into. That's enough in this case. But if there's one more than one method called render widget in this class, we need to define the whole method descriptor name here, or the method descriptor, not method descriptor name here. That's basically the whole class name, the whole path to the class plus the class name, and then the method name plus all of the method's arguments. It's quite long though. Let's do this using a plugin because I don't want to write this on my own now. I'm using a plugin for my IDE that allows me to just generate this descriptor, but I will explain it a bit. That's the class name, the name of the class we want this method is in. Every class is starting with an L, and instead of dots we are using slashes to separate, as separator, you know, or as you know. Every class is ended by an, is it called semicolon in English? I don't know. I hope. Then the class name, the method name, and here again, inside the method, we need to define the whole path to all your more advanced argument types, like in this case the matrix stack. It's just the same as for here, yeah, but for the class of the argument, and because every class is ended by a semicolon, you need to do this here too. The other ones are just 2 ints and a float, if I'm not wrong. Is this correct? Is this correct? Yes, it is. So we can just do, we just use the simplified names of these types, but that's just for very basic things like integer, boolean, or float. I will link to sites that explain these more in detail. But if you want to, if you want to understand descriptors, just Google it. Java descriptors, file descriptors, and method descriptors, and it will basically explain everything. I hope. So because that's a void, it's returning nothing. It's a void. So we ended with void. If this is returning a string, for example, we would need to define the path to the string class here. But again, just Google it. And yeah, that's all. This is the point we want to inject our Mixin into. Very basic. I will link to more in detail stuff to inject something into classes. And this is the method, the actual method we want to we want to inject into. And so now we have the injector, but we still need the actual stuff we want to inject. So we do a not public, that's not allowed for Mixins. We do a protected void on render widget, because we are doing stuff at the render widget class. That's how I name my stuff in Mixin. Because we don't, oh, we actually have arguments. I've already forgot it. If you want to use the arguments used in the original method head, you can do this by just adding the exact arguments as used in the original method to this head, to this arguments, followed by, that's the most important thing, callback info. That's what Mixin uses to do stuff like it allows you to cancel the method, and there's another thing called callback info returnable, if I'm not wrong, and this one would allow you to alter what non-void methods return, so you can check what they would return and alter this value or this whatever it's returning. Yeah. More advanced stuff I don't need or I don't want to explain here. I just want to show you how it works in general. So actually we forgot something. We need to add cancelable true to this injection annotation, because we want to cancel the method. In our case, that's not the best way of doing this. As I said, you should always try to keep as most of the original method as possible, but in this case I will just cancel it at the head, so nothing is done after this, and I can now just copy this method. So now we just copy the whole body of our original method into our Mixin method, in this case again. Not the best way to do this, just in this case. And yeah, we now have much things that are not in this class yet, because obviously that's not the original class. That's just our layer we lay on top of our method or class. So we need to shadow some fields and methods from the original class. In this case, that's the getYImage method. Here it is. So we just copy the method head of this method and copy it to our Mixin method as shadow method. That's done like this. We are using the shadow annotator, and we just copy this into here, and at that point we just need to change our class to abstract to use shadow methods and fields, because we need to import these, or we need to shadow these as abstract methods. Now we have, or now we can use the getYImage in this class. Next thing is hovered. I could just do this. Okay, let's do another thing. Widget. I explain what I do in a snap. Just want to do it before something else. Okay, because that's basically just the widget class at compile time or at run time. We can do this. This would not work because our IDE thinks, well, that's not the method we can cast to widget, but it is. It actually is. So we can do this. We cast it to object. So it's a basic object for the IDE. And then we can cast it to widget. And now we have our original widget instance and we can use it. Now we can just use isHovered like this, and we don't need to shadow it. This saves some time, and I think it's the best way you can do this. You should do it like that. Here, it's a final static field, I think. So we just we don't need to shadow it. We can just copy it because I'm lazy. What's happening? Oh, damn. Don't do protected or static, protected or public stuff, static stuff in Mixin classes. It will fail at compile time. So yeah, just to be honest, just do everything as private and you will be safe. So now we need the alpha field. Now we have this alpha float shadowed in our Mixin method. This one's actually not needed, or we don't need to shadow this because these are public. This one's actually not a method of the widget class. It's from its superclass that's called, I forgot it, abstract GUI or something. Abstract GUI. So let's do this, because we can always extend our Mixin classes with our original methods, super methods, but not we cannot extend the widget class. So it's not possible to do this, but it's actually possible to do this. So we can now just use these methods without worrying about reflecting it or shadowing it. It's not even possible to shadow these because they are not part of the widget class. This one we need to shadow, I think. It's just so you understand how it works. It's pretty useless what I'm doing here right now, but I think it explains a bit how it works. Now we just need, we don't need to do this, we can just do this. Yeah, and now we are done. It should probably work now. Let's test it. Okay, let's run it. It should now find the Mixin widget method and inject it at start time. Yeah, buttons look like they should look like. So we can close this, and now we can do some stuff to show that it's actually working. Print line, and we are removing the background from buttons, so just the string rendered here is left. Yeah, that should be everything needed. So let's start again, and it should just crash now. Damn. Oh, damn it. Now it works. Damn, it isn't working. Why isn't it working? Ah, shut up, Minecraft. Did I forgot something? Yeah, I actually forgot something. I know what I forgot, I think. It's just that I created these before creating before altering the build.gradle, so the newly added Mixin config stuff isn't in this one yet. Okay, let's continue this. I just recreated, or let Gradle recreate the run configuration. So let's just remove the debug stuff, so the log isn't getting spammed, and I'm actually able to read my Mixin errors. So yeah, just to show it, this was the one argument that was missing here, so it wasn't loading the actual Mixin config, and actually it wasn't able to inject these Mixins because it doesn't even knew these exist. Let's try this again. Now it should start spamming hi from Mixin widget as in the moment the button's starting to render, and it should just render the names, yeah, and not the background, because we completely removed the background. And yeah, same way as I just removed the background. No, damn. We are able to yeah, that looks ugly as shit, but okay. We are now able to do basically everything we need or we want to do to this. We can render new images at the same time. We can basically render everything. So if you want to render stuff somewhere in the whole menu or in the whole screen, you can do this from here. But yeah, you shouldn't, because you're injecting into a widget render thing. So yeah. Yeah. I'm very freaking bad at explaining things, but I hope you just understood how the basics of Mixin works. That's basically how every basic injection should look like. You don't need to cancel methods at this point. You can just inject into heads. That's a good thing. You can do this. If you don't want to cancel stuff from a method, you just want to, let's say, add a render event at the head of this method, so you can render stuff before the actual button rendering happens. You could delete all this. You could delete this because you don't need it in this, but you can keep it because some events allow you to cancel the rendering. If you have an event that allows you to cancel this, you can do it like that and cancel it. Let's make a pseudo event. Button render event. Now you could, for example, give it that, and now you would post it like that to the event bus of to the Forge event bus, and now it would be called before the actual method rendering happens. So you can render stuff before the buttons rendering stuff. It would probably it would basically be a event that renders stuff behind the button. If you want to render stuff after the event happens, you just change this to tail. So as I explained before at some point, I hope, this is the injection point after the final return. So it's basically the method bottom. It happens after everything other happened in this class, in this method. So do the same thing, and to keep the Forge way to do events, let's say it's post now, and now you can, or you could post this this post event to the event bus, and it would be called after the button rendering, so you can render stuff in front of the button. So that's how it works. That's how Mixin works. And if you want to get more in detail with the other methods of doing stuff, you can. There's another one called modify variable. That's no. Let's not do this. Let's do modify arc. That's, for example, is if you just want to modify an argument of a method. So let's say you want to give the render rigid method a different matrix stack. You would use this one, but if you want to know how this works, Google it. There are tons of examples for all of these, and I will link, as I said, to some sites that will help you understand this and all of the methods to inject and alter stuff of classes and methods. And yeah, I hope I'm not too bad at explaining, and you learned something from this. So yeah, if you have more questions, just ping me. don't know how long this video is now. The raw version is 1 hour and 20 minutes, so yeah. Congratulations to me. Bye.